It's the Introvert Dating Success Podcast, the show for introverted men that's all about learning how to attract beautiful women and still get your precious alone time. And now, here's your host, dating coach and fellow introvert, Harry Wilmington.
What up, guys? Welcome to the Introvert Dating Success Show. I'm your host, as always, Harry Wilmington. This is where you go to learn how to date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. Not going to lie, I'm a little tired today. And so I figured, you know what? Today, we're just going to answer comments from people and answer questions that I've gotten over this past week. During this chat, of course, if you yourself have a question or comment that you'd like to leave in the chat for me to respond to, you are welcome to do so because this show is ultimately all about you guys. So we're going to get into that. This is all about answering questions and stuff. But real quick, I did want to make a quick note of something. And I saw this TikTok video this week where this person was talking about how they were on the verge of getting divorced. And part of the reason was because he saw himself as like the main character in his life story. And so as his wife was requesting things of him and he was batting the request away, he figured he wasn't doing anything wrong because he's the main character. So he's not batting her stuff away with any malice. It's just he doesn't want to do it. And he has his own narrative in his head as to why he doesn't want to do those things. And then so it started to weigh on him because she started saying things like, well, when the kids leave the house, then we're going to get divorced. And then as it got closer to that, it was like, she's not really happy. And he realized that up until this point, he, in the process of making himself the main character of his life story, didn't realize that he's showing up in a particular way in her story at all times. And if the way that he's showing up in her story ends up resulting in him being the villain of her story, then ultimately the relationship is not going to work. And so I really thought about that, about how if people were able to treat their spouse really the same way they want to be treated, but really view their spouse or significant other as an extension of themselves. And if you treat yourself well, ideally, you're also treating your spouse or significant other well, which means that just like when you have a concern, you want to get to the bottom of it and fix it right away, or you want to really sit with yourself and figure out what it is you need to do, that when your significant other comes to you with a complaint or saying they need you to pick up the slack a bit more, that it's not just another person coming to you to do that, but rather it is an extension of yourself, i.e. you are coming to yourself because you're in a relationship with this other person. And therefore, if she's got a concern or issue, then you also had that concern or issue. And so I think if people were more mindful of that, then think about how arguments would go, right? Your significant other comes to you and says, hey, so I don't know if you're aware, for example, but the way you do this thing, this is why it's concerning to me and blah, blah, blah. Rather than brushing that off, you'd be like, wait a minute, she cares about me. She's an extension of me. And more importantly, I'm a character in her story. As an alternative character to her being the main character in her story, how do I want to show up in a way that she's going to view as positive, beneficial, and looking like I want to actually like work on this thing and take her concerns seriously? And I think if more people did that, then a lot more relationships would last longer. So I'm saying for you guys, as you're going into relationships, or maybe you're already in one, be mindful that just like to you, stuff's happening to you because you're the main character in your own story, that the person that you're with is also the main character in their own story. And that just like you want to be respectful of your story and that you want other people to respect you as the main character of your story, that your significant other also deserves that respect. So I just wanted to put that out there. I thought it was an interesting TikTok that I saw about that. Like and I always say on the show, we are ultimately the heroes in our own story. But that doesn't mean that we can't be the villain in somebody else's. And you definitely don't want to show up as the villain in your spouse's or significant other's story. So if they're coming to you with concerns, understand that they care about you and they're voicing it because in their story, this is starting to be a problem. And you need to really analyze what their problem is for the benefit of their story and also for the benefit of yours. So I wanted to say that real quick. So now we're going to get on to the question. So guys, you can see this thing scrolling down below. If you have a question or comment you want to make during the course of this show, I will be happy to answer it live for you today. All right. Also, as always, be sure to go to the website. You can go there to get ebooks, audiobooks, coaching, and other various things that are designed to help you in your dating journey. And of course, I have hundreds of videos on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe, like this. If the content that you're hearing today gels with you, all I ask is that you pass this on to somebody else. If you want to leave a super chat or a super tip on my website, you're welcome to do that as well. All right. So let's go ahead and get into some comments and questions that I've gotten during the course of this week. So first off, I'm on Reddit and somebody wrote and said, I went out twice with a girl. He's 28, she's 24. I liked her a lot. We had a good time. I know she did because she told me she enjoyed her time and had fun hanging out with me. We went for water sport, then dinner at a restaurant that she swears by. She told me she likes that I actively seek out things to do when I'm bored, as opposed to her, who waits for plans to be made, which is apparently relevant later. Well, I'm going to say in the beginning of the dating process, that's going to mostly weigh heavily on you. And I've seen a few guys before complain about the fact that they got to plan everything in those first few dates. And it's like date 5 and she hasn't stepped up. And my thing is this, until you get to like date 10, realistically, ideally she's going to jump in before then to suggest a date, but you should not have an expectation that that's going to happen, because for a lot of women, they need to see that you're putting effort forth. And for some women, it might take 8 to 10 dates to do that. Most women, I find it takes an average of 4, maybe 5 before they start volunteering that they want to take you out or cook for you or have you come to their place. So understand that that's your part, and they're doing their part. If they're, showing up to the date and having a good conversation and looking pretty, and you're going home with her and you're able to do other fun things at the home, and she's starting to talk to her friends about you and these other various things, she's doing her part. And like I said, most women, as their interest increases, you're going to find are going to start volunteering a lot more of who they are. But a lot of women are guarded, they've been hurt, and they don't want to give fully of themselves until they're able to see a consistent pattern from you. And part of that is being able to plan things. Also, women just typically like guys that plan stuff, and we typically plan it better. Like, women are on dates in part because they don't want to go to the same restaurant for the 15th time. So maybe they go out with a guy that can show them a different side of life. And they are also thinking that they're not going to be able to plan something as fun. Like, women that aren't in the day-to-day of dating like that, they might not know that you like doing certain types of activities, and they might not be aware that they could suggest stuff. And that's a conversation you can have. But like I just say early on, typically you as the guy are going to just do that up in the beginning, But anyway, so then he said, we agreed that she would lead our 4th date for an activity she really wants to do. She really appreciated when I told her she can plan the activity, time, and date, and I'll take care of the transport because she doesn't have a car. Our 3rd date was going to be sometime next week, and we'd figure it out. We agreed to text about it. Okay, so here's where this guy starts to fall into problems. And these are going to be examples of problems that you as a guy might not be aware are big deals, but they give away certain tells about your attraction, and they give away an idea of how intense you're feeling for her, and it may be too soon. So to start off with, when he said, we're already planning our 4th date and we haven't even gone on the 3rd one yet, you are now planning future dates. And the problem with planning future dates is that is indicative of a guy that is already making plans to have a life with her. Because it'd be different if like you guys are already boyfriend and girlfriend, then obviously you guys have already solidified that you guys are in a relationship. She solidified her feelings, and you can do what I call boyfriend style activities, including pre-planning for future dates. But when you're in the dating process, when you make moves like this, what it's indicating to her is that you're already forcing her to feel like this is a relationship. Because think about it. In order to plan in advance a 3rd date and a 4th date, basically you're saying to the woman, hey, you need to give up any kind of time that you had because we're in a thing now, and I need you to commit to being able to go on these dates. And a woman that doesn't have her feelings all the way there for you like that is going to start to be weary of this and back off, because it's making the idea of dating you now not be a choice, and it's being forced upon her. And there's a method to the madness of how dating works. Like, obviously, if you ask a woman out, you want her to say yes, but you don't need her to know in ahead of time that you're going to ask her out. Part of the dating game early on is there being ambiguity and her not being fully aware of where your feelings are at. And she's able to read that very highly when you start saying things like, hey, I know it's our 2nd date, but we should plan out our 3rd date. And then for our 4th date, you should do X, Y, and Z. You're sounding overeager. You're putting the cart before the horse. You're overly anticipating things that should happen. And she hasn't even decided if based on these 2 dates, she actually can start to see a future with you, because now you're trying to force a future down her throat. I'm just telling you guys how women are taking it. So you can't be surprised later on as I read this, when you start to see that things are not quite going the way he wants them to. So for you guys that are watching this, I say, this is why I tell you, you go on dates, you show a woman the best time possible. You say, I had a great time, give her a hug, give her a kiss, whatever, and then you go away. You don't end the date saying, hey, I want to see you again. Hey, let's plan for 2 or 3 weeks from now, blah, blah, blah. Now, even if he's doing that, right? The part where he's like, our 3rd date was going to be planned sometime next week, and we figure it out. We'll text about it. If you're going to say to a woman, hey, we should make plans for another date, then you plan when you're bringing that up. So I don't care if it's a phone call or if you're in person with her and you said, hey, let's go on a date next week, which you shouldn't be doing early on in the dating process. But if you do, hey, so next week, Tuesday, there's this restaurant that I want to go to. There's an event happening. There's a sports game happening, and I'd love to take you. Are you free at this time? Like, if you're going to go that route, you plan everything about this date at the point where you are bringing it up. Because what you're going to find happens is you're going to say to a girl, hey, we should go on a date. Oh, we'll figure it out. And one, that's not exciting for a woman to hear. And also, by the time you get to her to try to text her about that date, she's not going to be as excited about it as she would have been if it had just been sprung on her that, oh my God, this guy wants to go on a date with me again. And you need to do that. Like, I know as the guy, you need to be the planner of these things, but you can make things spontaneous and mysterious and exciting for a woman early in the dating process by simply not giving her the entire story and not telling her all the plans you have with her, or not giving away all your feelings. Because part of the excitement for women is not knowing that stuff and trying to figure it out. And I know guys say that's game playing. Well, that feels like game playing to us because that's not how we operate. And this is where it's important to understand the difference between how you as a guy are going to operate in the dating world and what's going to be comfortable for the woman to do to you, i.e., you'd want her to tell you in advance, like various plans, stuff like that. But you got to understand that that's how we operate. How women function is their lives are pretty much, they're in their head all the time, planning out stuff nonstop. So when they're with their guy, if they don't happen to know some stuff, great. I've literally told women before, hey, you know what? Pack a bag and be ready for me to pick you up. And that's all the details they get. And that's exciting because part of it's like the unknown, like, ooh, where am I going? And it's that anticipation that builds that makes it a more intriguing event for the woman versus, hey, so we're going to go here and such. So pack this. And also, we're doing this at 3:30, this at 4:30, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, she's still going to probably enjoy the trip, but like you took out that little extra bit of excitement that would have made it that much sweeter. Anyway, he says, after our 2nd date, we texted a little bit, but she left me on read after I told her I was excited to see her again. You didn't need to do that. I double texted and wished her a nice day the next day, and she replied. This is an example of nice guy behavior that nice guys think they have to do in order to keep a woman's interest. And it's an example of guys trying to over-communicate because we hear that women like communication and think we need to do it all the time, when the reality is there are times when women don't need to hear from you. And women actually, A, either they don't mind occasionally not hearing from you, or B, when you don't contact them as frequently, it incentivizes them to reach out to you, i.e. them chasing you. And as I always say, if she's chasing you, she can't be replacing you. But if you're constantly behind her, hey, princess, hey, what's going on? Have a good day. Oh my God, I had such a good time. That takes away the motivation for her to now come towards you. You want women coming towards you so they won't back away from you. Anyway, so he says, we had a few conversations by text here and there. Then yesterday, I decided I wanted to see her again. Notice what he said. So they've already got a date planned, and he's saying, you know what? Darn the date we got planned. I already know I want to see her right now. And so he's not taking into consideration, again, that outside of him dating her and them just getting to know each other, that she has a life. And what will happen is this, is that guys will do this thing where they'll be like, well, we planned a date, but if she really likes me, then she'll still want to see me. And then when the woman's like, I can't see you, or I don't want to see you right now, then they get butthurt and they get in their head, oh my God, she doesn't want to see me. What does this mean? I thought she liked me. She's playing games with me. And it's like, dude, you already had a date planned. And she budgeted the time for that date, but she also budgeted time for other things going on in her life. You can't, after a 2nd date, assume you can just come in and say at any given time, hey, let's hang out. That is an example to her of you trying to force yourself into her life, because now you're trying to say, hey, I don't hear what you got going on, but I'm going to assume you got nothing going on and you're going to spend time with me. And that's forcing her to spend time with you. And that's why I say it's better in the beginning to pre-plan when you're going to see her and not do spontaneous dates. If anything, she can get away with hitting you up and saying, hey, I was just thinking about you today. I'd love to see you. Let's hang out. Because that means that her interest is growing. Guy, you already know from the first or second date you have with her that your interest is already sky high. And that's why when you do it, it's going to come off as too much too soon. Whereas if she does it, she's not used to dating a guy that gives her the feeling of wanting to see him constantly. So that's why it's going to come off better when she does it than when you do it. Anyway, he said, then yesterday, I decided I wanted to see her again. So I asked if she was free this week or next week and tried to acknowledge that she had already mentioned she was busy this week with work. And she told you that, and you guys talked about that. So you trying to change the plans up in her head is no bueno. She just reiterated that and said she's out drinking with friends. I told her to have fun and to let me know for next week if she's up for it. Oh, another classic mistake here. So this guy did what I tell you guys not to do, which is you don't leave it up to a woman to get back to you on a date. Like the part where he says, I told her to have fun, let me know for next week. That in a woman's head, she's going to be picturing you sitting idly by the phone, waiting for her to contact you so you can get the blessing of her going on a date. That is not a masculine frame of mind that she's going to put you in now when you're doing that. So what would have been a better response was we to say, okay, hey, you know what? Have fun. If you're going to go to the next week thing, because I would have just waited until the date that we already had planned, but you're going to say, great, have fun. I'll talk to you later. That's it. Boom. Then he can talk to her later, like in the week, and decide if he wants to ask her for another date or wait until the date that they already had. But you giving the impression you're going to sit by the phone and wait for her to contact you, you're going to lose more women doing that because it's going to put you in the frame of being more in your feminine energy because you're the one waiting by the phone. And you can lose a lot of women that would have dated you if you had just known how to stay in a more masculine frame of mind. Just real talk. I know it doesn't seem fair, but nothing about dating has to be fair. It just has to work. And you trying to hit her up and say, hey, hit me up some other time is not something that's going to make her lady boner pop and make it work for her to want to continue to date you. So then he says, since then, I decided that I've been the one initiating text, and I decided I'll let it go here. I haven't heard from her since. It's been a few days. The last text we had was sort of a natural close to the conversation. So my question is, am I ghosting her by not texting, or is she ghosting me? Or should I text and ask for clarification? Well, here's the thing, guy. The way you ended the last conversation, you said that you ended it and it just seemed like it was a natural ending where you said, oh, let me know next week, blah, 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 blah. Understand, even if you tell most women, hey, hit me up next week and let me know if you're free for a date, the majority of women, even ones that literally like you highly, are not going to do that because they've been taught in order to be in their feminine, they have to let the man be the one to reach out to them to ask for the date. So this is a faux pas on his part. So what he should do is wait a week. And then for all we know, she's waiting for him to hit him up. Now, caveat, again, I stress that women that are highly interested would probably still reach out. But in the beginning, you're lucky if the woman has a 60 to 65% like. The goal ultimately is to get her to like 90% where you can do no wrong or be comfortably in the 80s to 90% interest range, right? But in the beginning, this is why it's so important in the beginning to kind of know the steps to take when you're trying to talk or date women, is because most women ideally have other guys that are probably giving them attention. And there's so many things that if you're not doing it in the right way can actually like throw her off. Because let's say you get her interest to 60%. Well, the guy she was out with tonight gets her interest to 65%. You lose. And so what we want to do is make sure that you're not doing things like over texting or trying to ask for too much for attention or asking for future dates that are going to throw her off your scent. Because I guarantee you, if you're doing that, 3 or 4 other guys that she's possibly talking to are also doing that. And the one guy she's with is the guy that had a little bit more patience and was making her anticipate hearing from him. So you got to understand this is why it's so crucial in the beginning. And some guys are like, well, it should just matter to be who I want to be. You can do whatever you want to do. But if you're not getting the results that you want, it may be because you don't know the method to the madness and the pattern that it's going to actually take to build up her interest in a way that feels natural to her. Darn what feels natural to you, guy. We want what's going to feel most natural to her to be able to feel like she actually wants to connect with you. Now, if you need help with that, you can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com and sign up for some of my programs that really deep dive into the ins and outs of the dating process. But anyway, this guy, he says the thing, she also grew up in a more traditional household. So I'm not sure if her expectation is that I will engage her every time, and she needs to respond if she's interested in what I'm talking about. If I don't engage her, she'll just leave it there too, and too bad. Or is she, she's just responding out of politeness and interest in the actual activities? Here's the thing. She's responding to you when you're asking her for dates, because that's what the phone should be used for. And I had a conversation the other day with somebody talking about how texting has really ruined dating, especially for men. Because before texting, guess what? People made phone calls and people saw each other in person, but like dating worked. People got together and it was all good. And you didn't have to contact a woman 24/7 in order for her to keep interest. But men got tricked into thinking now that there's texting, in order to stay in her good graces, I got to text all the time. I'm going to just say this. In my personal experience, I found that the less I texted women, the more multiple dates that I got and the more relationships I was able to get into. And that's because there is still something to be said for the art of missing somebody. Like the idea that, hey, I don't hear from her for like 3 or 4 days. And then when we meet up, we have a bomb conversation about all the stuff she's been getting into. And then she gets to ask me what I've been into. And we get to kind of fill each other in. And that actually keeps the conversation going versus I text her for 3 days straight and then I see her in person and I have nothing to talk about. And now she thinks I'm a weirdo that can't come up with a conversation. And now she's losing interest. So keep in mind, guys, that the phone is to be used as a tool. It is a tool to get dates. At the point that you get the date, your conversation should not be existent until you see her in person again. Again, this is what's worked for me. Now, if you're a guy that's been able to text a girl nonstop and make it work and not have relationship burnout, hey, comment down below. I'd love to hear those stories. But I have found with most guys that I coach, the story typically goes, hey, we were texting a lot at the beginning, and then I kept on texting her a lot, and now it's starting to wane, and now I can't keep her interest. The fact that that's a story that more than one guy, more than 10 guys, more than 50 guys, more than 100 guys has told me should give you a pause about how much you think you need to text a woman. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much the end of that guy's thing. Now, there was another thing that somebody added on, and because he was talking about the whole, like, you know, I'm attracted to her, but guys get into this thing where it's like, well, I'm texting her a lot and I need somebody that's going to match my energy. And so if she's not texting me as much as I text her, it must mean she doesn't like me. And so I got to find somebody else. And then somebody down in his comment section said, a passive person will still text someone that they're interested in. To me, that's the odd part, especially having 2 dates done and 2 more planned. But like most are saying, it comes down to what you like and your preferences for communication in a relationship. From reading everything, the red flag is her never contacting you first. That's just weird to me. Well, it's not really weird. The mistake you're probably making is you're, in an attempt to show your like to her, are constantly being the one to initiate, and you're not giving her time to actually initiate back. So you got to ask yourself, if you're so impatient that you're always texting her, are you actually training her to expect that you're going to be the one that always initiates conversation? And the answer is yes. So this is why in the beginning, you only text to ask for dates, because we want to use that. We can use that as a good barometer to see if she's building interest, because inevitably, even a woman that's not a big texter will eventually text a smiley face, an emoji. Hey, handsome, what's up? Just want to see how you're doing. But you got to give her the space to do that. And if you're the one that's always initiating, then you're not leaving her the space to reach out to you first, you know? So then this person said, not saying she's not interested, but it's lacking for her to not reach out first ever. Traditional house or not, doesn't neglect what you said. You both should be making an effort. So understand, the woman's effort in the early part of the dating process is when you ask her on a date, she says yes. She clears her schedule to show up on time. She dresses pretty. She comes with a good conversation. She tells you about her life story so you can get a gauge for what kind of woman she's going to potentially be. You guys, she's there as your makeout partner, as your potential hookup partner. Like, that's what she does. Your job is to ask for the dates, take her out, show her a good time, show her why she can trust you, be consistent in what you're showing her. None of that says that either of you are supposed to be trying to text each other excessively to the point where the other person gets annoyed by it and it burns out. Texting is a relatively new thing in the last 15 or 20 years. In the whole scope of dating of all these years, that is the newest form, and it's the one that's messing up things the most because people got together for thousands of millennia without having to text a person back. So I would say she might still be interested. The best way you can gauge that is to ask her out on a date, see if she says yes, and then when she says yes, stop texting her and don't talk to her again until the actual date. So hopefully that helps you out. All right. So now let's go ahead and answer some other questions. Like I said, guys, this show is ultimately about you. So if you have any questions you want to ask me in the chat, then you can do so, and I'll be happy to answer it during this live show. So this is an interesting situation. This guy said, so a month ago, I was late for work, so I had to leave without showering, putting on deodorant or cologne. He said, I work a pretty physically demanding job, so when I got off of work, I reeked. I had to drive home with the windows down just to not make myself nauseous on the way home. When I got home, I walked past her on the way to our room, and she sniffed the air, and I apologized, explaining why I stunk. But when I did, she started burying her face in my armpit and breathed deep before saying, "You smell delicious." So instead of a shower, we had rough, passionate hookup, her smelling the air like a bloodhound the entire time. Afterwards, when we were cuddling, she still didn't stop sticking her face in my chest and arms and inhaling me like Kirby. Kirby was a video game on Game Boy, Kirby's Dream Land, look it up. She was even hesitant to let me take a shower. Now, some days she requests I don't put on any product. She says she loves it and calls it boy smell, even if I think I smell like the devil's trash can. Has anyone else ever had this happen, and why is this? Well, the bottom line is this, is that, obviously both sexes give off pheromones to the other sex that they find appealing. But what's interesting is that, and this is where men might not ever understand why this is, right? But women are really attracted not only to masculine men, but the traits that those masculine men are showing. So we might think it's silly that, like, okay, I get home and I want to shower and put on some fresh cologne because I don't want to be dirty and dusty. But that musky scent, even though it might reek to us, to them, she could be thinking, this smells like a man. It's giving me indications that he was out there working hard. And so she's picturing you working hard. She's picturing, well, she's obviously smelling your manly smell and the musk of it. And it just reminds her of how much of a man you are. And that we all have, as sophisticated as we like to think we are, we all have lizard brain. So her lizard brain is saying, ooh, I smell man. I want to do man. And so, yeah, that's why that's happening. So, to your point, if you're in the kind of relationship where that's not going to bother you and you can realize that, hey, that's a fetish that she now has and you're willing to give her that fetish, then don't fight it. Like some things as guys, we're going to be trying to make sense of it. Like, what's this about? What does this mean? Dude, just go with the flow. The fact that she likes the way you smell and you smell like darn near butt crack when you walk in and she's already ready to jump your bones, like that for her is a fun time. Let it be a fun time. Now, with that said, obviously, if she smells really horrible and that doesn't work for you, definitely advise her, hey, take a shower because, women, when they smell bad, they everything down there smells like trash can. It's horrible. So you might not be the same way. And that's totally fine. As long as you guys are both willing to make the odds and ends for each other's kinks and things, then I say go with it. Don't try to think about it too hard because I know you want to overanalyze it, but don't overthink it. Just go with it. And be happy that she's liking you for the actual scent that you have. All right, let's see. We got another comment here. Oh, so I did a video on TikTok. I do a lot of videos on TikTok. Check that out, tiktoks.com/Harry Wilmington. And I give a lot of things talking about, women need this or, the step-by-steps to being able to attract a woman and whatnot. And so occasionally I'll get comments that are in this vein. So this guy left a comment. He said, women aren't a process whereby you put the right input in and get a desired outcome. They're people. And I get where this guy's coming from. I understand it's basically saying that women aren't objects and you can't just, assume that if you do a certain thing, it's going to have this result and that's treating them like less than human, right? I am a guy who is an introvert and I sit around all day and analyze things. And one of the things that I analyze very heavily is patterns. And part of the reason that I analyze patterns is because honestly, as an introvert, it was very hard early on for me to be able to communicate with people because I wouldn't necessarily know, like, when to jump into a conversation, the kind of conversation to have. I couldn't tell if a person was feeling a certain kind of way or whatnot. And so I had to start studying human behavior as a means to be able to connect with people on a deeper level. And one of the things that I found is that, surprisingly, as much as people don't want to hear this, people function on patterns. That's why there are things called habits that we have. For example, I'm right-handed, so the majority of stuff that I do is with my right hand. When I put on my pants, I probably use the same leg every single time. It's a pattern. The way that I talk, I typically tend to talk fast. I'm trying to break that pattern now because I've definitely gotten some critique on that from some of you. But that's a habit that I've had for 41 years, And so I bring this up because patterns, it's important to know that people have patterns, because since people have patterns, that means most people on average are going to respond in a similar fashion to the same types of things. For example, this is the reason why across the board, most women, if they see something cute, they'll get that little awe feeling. And if they see something that seems like it's really sensitive, they'll start to cry across the board. This isn't all women. This is a generalization, but women are more apt to cry about things than guys are. It's just part of their pattern. So that also means that across the board, there are going to be certain patterns and things that women respond to better than other patterns. I talk extensively on here, for example, about the fact that the majority of women that I've dated and that I've surveyed don't like when a guy is texting them all the time. So if you come into the thing and say, well, I want to be me, and you're saying if I don't text women, then they're going to like me more, but that seems like I'm manipulating them. Well, you don't have to listen to me. You could continue to do what you want to do, but I can tell you based on my research and analyzation that you're not going to get the results that you want, and that knowing what a person is going to best respond to, is that really like manipulating them or taking advantage of them if it's in a positive way? Because we do that to people all the time. On your job, if you want to raise, there's a certain pattern that you got to go through or work up in the ranks in a certain way in order to hit certain markers, in order to raise up to the next level in your desired job, desired position, desired pay grade. And the same is true for dating. On date one, you can't say, well, I already know that I like her, so I'm going to tell her everything about me, and I'm going to proclaim that I want her as my girlfriend right now and have it go well. Why? Because women across the board don't respond to that very well. So if your desired outcome is to get a girlfriend, and you're saying, well, you can't just have a process and then get a girlfriend, then you're going to always be stuck not having a girlfriend. Because if your pattern is, well, I go on date one and express myself, and then if they're going to tell me what they want out of this thing, and if they're looking for a serious relationship versus a casual relationship, and if they don't tell me or they don't give me the right answer, then I'm out of here. You got to ask yourself, is that a process that's going to get you your desired outcome? Or if you're going on a date, showing a woman a good time, giving her time between dates to miss you, consistently showing up in a way where she's having lively, fun dates with you, and you're not being overeager. And yeah, you have a strong like for her, but you're kind of like holding it back a bit because you want to wait to see if she's at the same level. And then that ends up resulting in you getting a girlfriend. Then I got news for you. That is an example of a process that'll get you a girlfriend. I have a whole program at my website called the Top Secret Dating Blueprint, which all it is walking guys through a 3-month process of going from meeting a woman to attracting her, to calling up for a date, to taking her on a first date, to taking her on a second date, to going for that first kiss, to knowing what moves need to be consistently done in order for her to come towards you, to being able to negotiate your way into a relationship. Why do I have that program? Because there was a time in my life where I had no roadmap for dating, and the result was I couldn't get or keep a girlfriend. And at the point where I was able to figure out, okay, there's a pattern to how this dating thing works. And if I just follow this pattern, then I find that I get success with relationships. Then I found, because I was able to figure that out, that other guys might want that. And to say that there's not a process to dating is asinine at best, because everything in life has a process. Now, I get where guys don't want to hear that, because it makes the dating process less romantic for us. And I've said this on the show before, and I'll say it again. In those first 2 months of dating is not romantic for you. Dating is romantic for them. If they happen to want to do some, hey, I got you this surprise trip, or I got you this little gift thing or whatever, that's great. But your job in the first 3 months is to have a planned out form of action that's going to result in the woman naturally feeling as though you were the person for her. And I don't mean to say this in a way that you're going to do this in a manipulative fashion, because I get weirded out when guys are like, you're teaching us to manipulate women. And I'm like, how? By being patient? By not telling everything about yourself, by not trying to force her to spend time with you. Like, to me, that seems like more of a manipulation, because you're basically saying to her, hey, you need to like me right now and make a decision right now, or else I'm going to be out of here. Versus, hey, come and go as you please. You know what? I'm going to ask you out. When I'm not seeing you, I'm doing other things, but I'm going to ask you out again eventually. Hopefully you have a good time with me. If not, no harm, no foul. But if you do, stay tuned. And to me, that process works a lot better. So for those of you guys that maybe don't have a process or don't understand the mechanics of the best method you can go about going from meeting a woman to getting in a relationship, I got a bunch of stuff at introvertdatingsuccess.com that you can check out that will help get you to the promised land. All right. But I just wanted to answer that guy's question, because I get that comment a lot about, the whole thing of like, women are people, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, women are people. And guess what? Women have our patterns figured out. Like, women across the board have studied this longer than men have. So you're thinking she's coming to this thing and not having a pattern or idea. But hey, the fact that she's going on all these first dates with a new outfit more often than not, and a new smell more often than not, and knows to act flirty and toss her hair more often than not, and do various things to give you the opinion or idea that she's interested in you, that's all a pattern that she's given to you. So there should be nothing wrong with you also doling out a pattern that's in her best interest in terms of building attraction for you. That's all I'm saying. All right, let's see what other questions we got here. Again, guys, if you have any questions you want to ask me in the chat, you're welcome to do so. Otherwise, I'm going on with this list here. So let's see. So this guy, he's having a situation where he's trying to figure out how to get a weekend apart from his girlfriend, who is doing some not so great things. So he says, I'm currently going through a challenging time in my relationship, and I'll try to provide as much context. So lately, I've noticed some concerning behavior from my girlfriend, and it has left me feeling confused and unsure about where our relationship stands. She has been posting WhatsApp statuses that seem to suggest she could easily move on, and recently, she responded to a tweet stating that she is single. These actions have made me question the state of our relationship and have raised some red flags. So at this point, I'd be out. And maybe it's just because of my age. I'm like, at this point in time, I know there are other women out there who would not be posting up on social media, either jokingly or seriously, that she wants another relationship, because that's signaling to other people that she's open for something else and that I may not be in the picture. So at that point, I'd have been out. Like, I'd have just been like, hey, I saw some stuff on your social media and it looks like you want to be single again. So I'm out. And I don't need a further conversation about it. But again, I also know that if that were to happen, I could find somebody else. You might not be at the stage yet where you have that feeling tone, or you haven't had evidence that shows that other women would actually want you. And so this is where guys end up staying in relationships that don't serve them and are toxic, because this is a toxic behavior. And then what you're going to do is be like, well, it's my social media and I can do what I want and blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't even want to have that conversation, But anyway, continuing on with his question, he says, to address these concerns, I'm considering taking a weekend off from seeing her. I believe some time and space for reflection could be beneficial for both of us. However, I want to approach this situation politely and respectfully. I don't mean to laugh, but like the fact that he's still looking at her and having so much care for like how she's going to respond to him as he's finding out that she's texting or putting things on her thing saying that she's single and she's ready to move on. It's admirable. But it also gives an example of a dude that, again, doesn't believe he has other options that are going to be out there for him. And it's sad. To me, it's sad. So he says, I care about her in our relationship, but I also need some clarity and reassurance. How can I politely express my need for a weekend apart to gather my thoughts and process my feelings? Additionally, how can I initiate a conversation about the status of our relationship without sounding accusatory or confrontational? Well, again, I'm a different type of dude. My response would have been, my response, what I want to say is, I'd say, hey, I saw some stuff. I'd take screenshots of it and show it to her and be like, this isn't working out and I'm out. And that would be the end of it. That said, if you're trying to keep this thing together, you just got to tell her, be like, hey, you know what? I'm really questioning if you want to be with me. And I saw these various things that you're posting, and it looks to me as though maybe you need some time to really think about if you actually want to be in a relationship. So you know what? I'm going to take a weekend off and go someplace and just kind of chill out for a bit. And I think you should do the same. And we can reconvene sometime next week and see where we're at. And that's the best you can do, because she's showing some really disrespectful things. And I'm going to tell you guys, like, there are women out there that won't do this kind of stuff. So get with those women. And if you find that they start doing these kind of things, then dump them for other women that won't do this, because she's not showing loving behavior by posting up things like, I'm ready to move on and I actually am single. Like, is that the kind of woman that you want to stay with? One that's you have to question if you don't get in front of her social media, what is she posting behind your back and what is she saying about you that indicates that she doesn't want to actually be with you? Like, that's a lot of stress. And I, for one, do not believe that you need to have somebody that's adding relationship stress. I believe that relationships themselves are already going to be stressful just because of life in general. I don't need the person I'm dating to bring extra stress by seemingly stepping out on the relationship. So that's what I would do. All right. So let's see. I got a comment under my pull away test video, which is my most popular video on the platform. And this person said, I don't agree that you shouldn't call a woman out about her flaking. So in that video, I stressed that as a guy, if a woman's flaking on you, then understand that you know what's happening. She knows what's happening, and just, let it be, move on to somebody else, right? So he says, I don't agree that you should call a woman out about her flaking. Well, I don't agree that you shouldn't call a woman out about her flaking. I'm a busy man with lots of responsibilities, and if somebody makes plans with me, I plan for her to keep them. Otherwise, don't make the plans. If she flakes at the last minute, that's inconsiderate because I could have made other plans. So this is where guy logic gets you in trouble, because what this guy's thinking is, well, if she flakes on me, then I should be able to logically hit her up and say, hey, you flaked on me and I don't appreciate that behavior. And in the future, could you please not flake on me, right? So that sounds like a logical conversation. Here's the problem, is that a woman that flakes on you, take a listen, guys, they know they're flaking on you. They're in their own body. They recognize that you've texted them 3 or 4 times saying, hey, are we still doing this date? Hey, I look forward to seeing you. They're seeing these messages. They can read, they're comprehending, they understand. They're flaking intentionally because they don't have a high interest and or don't want to see you and or a better offer came up, which still equates to she's not highly interested. All right. So because of that, there's no need to call a woman out on that behavior. She knows she's doing it. The reason that men, we think that we want to do that is because we don't subconsciously like the idea of thinking that somebody that initially showed us interest would treat us this badly because we're us. We're so great. This other person shouldn't want to intentionally harm us. So then we start thinking, wait. They're not intentionally trying to harm me. Maybe they just need to be called out and be made aware that they're flaking and that they're hurting my feelings. And that's going to make them be like, oh, you know what? He's right. I totally flaked on him. I see how I now hurt his feelings. You know what? I'm going to make it up to him and not flake on him anymore. And let me tell you guys, at 41, at the times that I felt like doing this, I have yet to call out a woman for her flaky behavior and it result in her wanting to turn this ship around and treat me right and show up on dates on time. What typically happens is, oh, you're right, my bad, blah, blah, blah. And then I either try to set another date and they either ghost on that or they say, oh yeah, sure. And then they still flake. So this is why I don't find the exercise of calling somebody out on a flaking of a date an exercise that's worth doing, because it's futile at best. They know they're doing it and they're trying to signal to you that they don't have a good way of telling you that they're not interested because they're nervous, they're apprehensive about it. They haven't been taught to give people the grace of, hey, I appreciate you reaching out to me for a date, but I'm not interested. And also, women, they have a different dating life than we do. There have been plenty of times where they try to be upfront with previous people about, hey, I'm not interested. I appreciate you asking me out, but I got a boyfriend, or I don't want to do that. And the results that they get is pushback. Well, why don't you do? And I need a reason. So maybe by the time they came to you, they're like, I don't want to deal with that anymore. And they decided, I'm just going to flake on the guy. It's not fair. It doesn't feel good, but this doesn't mean that it warrants you having to call them out, because that's not going to get you the date or the relationship that you want. Woo! All right. So moving on, as I said, guys, if you have any questions you want to ask me during the course of this live, you can ask me in the chat, because I charge a lot for coaching on my website. So you can get it now if you have a question. So continuing on. This person commented under my video, 3 things she's feeling when she ignores you. And the comment says, this doesn't make sense. I've dated a woman for 3 years and they all seem to crave attention initially, but then they change. It's confusing. It's confusing when we all talk about communication and being grown-ups, yet it feels childish. I understand the idea that she may not want a certain reaction, but being unable to be honest with someone says a lot about her. So he's referencing the point of like, rather than a woman talking about how she's feeling about things, that she's just pulling away and not talking. He says it's weak. Instead, why can't we have a conversation where we sit down and discuss what's making her unhappy? I might not even realize that I'm making her feel that way, but after the conversation, I'll know and can work on correcting it. Well, the reality is that, well, for one, also for women that you're dating that are new, unfortunately, they're in the business of trying to figure out who they can trust relatively sooner than not. And so if you're doing things early on that to her reads as indicative of not being able to trust you, then it's very easy to pull away. But to his point, I'll go through some of his points here. He says they crave attention initially, but then they change. Well, the reality is at the point that you become regular stimuli, they don't need as much of your time and attention. For example, if you're dating a woman, she might be all over you on those first 2 or 3 weeks, and even all the way up to like when she becomes your girlfriend, or she's like texting you nonstop. And then guys get thrown off because it'll get to a point where all of a sudden it goes from she's texting me every day to she's texting me like maybe once a day to she's texting me every other day. It must mean her feelings are falling off. And my thing is like, no, it's just your regular stimuli now. So before, maybe she thought she had to text you a lot or just felt incentivized to text you a lot because she was trying to build up an interest and show you that she was interested. At the point that you had that interest, she's thinking, great, I can now relax back a bit because now he knows instinctively that I like him. So I don't need to be up in front of his face all the time to show that. And I think guys these days, unfortunately, get butthurt very easily because now we're in the phase where we're the ones that are like, no, show me consistent attention or else I'm going to not know where you stand. And that gets tiring. Like even a girl that's at 90% like you is going to be like, hey, like, I don't need to call you every morning. Sometimes I'm going to just call you in the afternoon, but I'm still going to show up for dates and still be all over you when I see you. But like maybe just not the texting portion, or maybe, you guys are seeing each other every single, like 2 or 3 times a week. And it goes down to like once a week because now that she has you, hey, she's got a life outside of you. She wants to still attend to. She did what she needed to do to get you in a good graces. And she's going to assume that you're confident enough to know that when she's not there, that she still likes and cares for you and that she doesn't need to give you all this attention consistently to keep doing that. And some guys aren't aware of that. And they feel like if she's not doing the same exact thing she was always doing, oh my God, what's going on? In a relationship, that's going to be bound to change. The amount of sex you guys have, the amount of texting you guys have, the amount of dates you guys go on, it's going to ebb and flow. That doesn't mean that when it's in a lower flow that she suddenly lost all this interest in you. It could just mean that she doesn't need you to be constantly all up on her as she did in the beginning. And that's totally fine. But to the point of like women, and this is a back and forth that women and men have, because as men, we don't feel as though we can always go to women with our true, honest opinions about stuff. Because, if you guys saw when Kevin Samuels was alive, he had a bunch of vitriol from women because he was just telling them the truth or agreeing with them that they were average or saying, hey, you have 3 kids, lady. Maybe you're not going to get a top tier guy. And people were like, oh my God, you're being so insensitive and misogynistic, even though he told guys the same stuff, right? So it's the same thing with like, just in the same way, we don't always feel we can come to women and voice our honest thoughts about stuff. Women don't always feel as though they can go to men and talk about their honest feelings about things. And what happens is this, is that there's going to be a process. If you're dating a woman, like a new woman, this is what's going to happen, right? Early on in the dating process or in the relationship process, she's going to come to you. And she's going to express a feeling that she has about something. It'd be something dumb. It'd be like, I really gel with this band because I feel like they really speak to my heart and blah, 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 blah. And in that moment, you have a choice of how to respond. You can either respond in a way that affirms that, or you can respond in a way that says that whatever she's feeling is ridiculous. So let's say she says, I like Taylor Swift stuff because I really connect with her on a deep level in these songs, blah, 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 blah. And your response is, Taylor Swift, that's so silly. She's such a whack artist. How could you like her? Congratulations, you've now made her think that she cannot come to you with her true feelings about things because you're going to ridicule her or put them down. And so you got to really be mindful of this early on, because to this guy's point, 3 years in, when you're like, why didn't she just come to me with her feelings? You got to look back at the 3 years prior and how you were reacting during times when she came to you with her true thoughts and feelings about things. If it was a way that was ridiculing or negative, then yeah, rather than talk to you about it, she's going to be like, I'm out because I want to talk to him, but he's probably going to put me down or make fun of me again. And I just don't want to hear that. So what's the point of even doing that? I'm out of here. So you as a guy got to recognize that at some point early in the dating process, it's going to happen and you're going to want to say something back as a joke or put it down. And you got to be like, wait, is this going to have repercussions later? Can I just say a nice thing about what she just told me about how she's feeling about a thing? Because as guys, we don't always feel the exact same things women do about particular things, but that doesn't mean that they're not valid and that she doesn't want it to feel validated or feel the empathy of that from you. So if you're able to start doing that early on, then a woman's going to feel more comfortable and trusting coming to you later on with other feelings. I'm going to tell you, women are going to come to you with all types of feelings that to you are going to be the most ridiculous thing in the world. But we also come to them expressing likes and interests about things. They're like, I could give two craps about this. But as our partner, women are very good at being able to say, oh, that's so great. That's so wonderful. That's so awesome. And giving like these great pep talks about how great they think the thing that we're into is, even though they're like, this is like the 17th time he's talked about this, but oh, it's great because they know we need that, you know? So just be cognizant of that, and then that won't be as much of a problem. Continuing on, let's see. Oh, so I talked to you guys extensively on here about how texting has basically ruined relationships and how texting for women kills attraction when you're doing it too much. And I try to give you guys methods to madness of how to be more patient. You can go to one of my more popular books on my website is Texting Like a Boss, which gives you the ins and outs of the right way to text, the wrong way to text, when to text, how to text, and why to text, right? And so this guy commented under this video. He said, I always tell people I believe dating isn't any worse. Texting has made things worse. We're all now victims of the phone and instant communication. But instant communication doesn't equate attraction for women in the dating phase. It's just like you say, you set aside time for her, communicate on the date, and then go away and stop communicating. So now you have to forcibly follow a set of rules because now we have this new thing in play that can turn into a bad habit. In the same way it's easy to be lazy in our sedentary lifestyles, you need to forcibly follow a routine to get yourself at the gym and make better habits. So yeah, and this is why, and this is a good note because I know there are guys that'll say, well, if I'm not texting her all the time, that's just who I am. I feel like I'm playing games. But again, back in the before times, texting wasn't a thing. So there was no texting game because nobody was texting anybody. At best, we had pagers and you could send like a 304, like, hey, what's up? What's going on? But to the point is that ultimately, texting is meant to be used as a tool. And so we've been tricked into thinking that texting needs to be a thing we're doing all the time. And that causes worse communication because it goes from you're texting her nonstop to then she's starting to fall off. And you're like, she must not like me. She's playing games or she doesn't communicate the same way I do. It must be energy, energy, energy. And the reality is that she needs time to herself to think about you, to talk to her girlfriends about you, to really get a better read on if you're being the guy that you're presenting yourself as based on multiple times seeing each other. And she can't get that through texting. So and also she can't read your true emotions through texting, and it just looks like a bunch of dialogue. And none of these things are things that are ultimately appealing to women, you know? So that's why I tell you guys that texting kills attraction. You only use it to set up dates, and that you're going to get better results if you stay off the phone. So I'm glad this guy wrote this comment. Let's see, this guy, I did a live last week talking about, is your dating bio too effeminate for women? And I talked about that, how some of the answers to prompts that guys give are using this flowery language that feels more feminine in tone. And that when women read that, it's going to cause them to see you more as a feminine person than a masculine person. If a woman's going after a masculine guy, then you leaving certain phrases or saying certain words on your dating profile are going to cause women to not swipe on you, right? So this guy said, I stopped caring years ago. I don't let women dictate how I have to express my masculinity. They judge men by their frame and bank account anyway. So that guy said, you know what? Hey, part of that is right. Women are judging us based on our masculine frame. And in that sense, I mean basically like how we're carrying ourselves as men. Are we leaders? Are we able to stand up to challenges and face them head on versus running from them? Are we able to have difficult conversations without being scared of what the other person's going to say in a respectful manner, but being able to have those conversations? Are we going to be able to stick up for ourselves when trouble comes? And these are all things that women want to see. And yeah, is our bank accounts. Do we have money regularly coming in? Are we able to support ourselves and potentially her? These are metrics that women are judging us on. And so if he's a guy that doesn't want to do that stuff and wants to be able to express his masculinity however he wants to, that's totally fine. I'm not against that at all. The only thing I would say is if you're trying to get women, you have to ask yourself this question. Women are going to be the consumers, i.e. the ones that are going to be choosing if they want us. So if you're going to an audience and you can read that they are reacting and responding to things more positively based on this particular type of thing, or showing certain traits of masculinity, and the traits that you have aren't displaying that, then are you serving your market? Because that, to him saying, I don't let women dictate how I have to express my masculinity, would be like a female saying, well, I don't have to be a feminine woman. I can be a boss babe. I can be able to do what I want to do and get men. And you know what? That woman will get some men, possibly to bang her, maybe not for a long-term relationship, but possibly to bang her and hang out with her for a little bit. But if the results that she wants is a masculine guy that's going to treat her in a feminine way, then she has to know what the market wants. Is the market looking for boss babe chicks that are in their masculine that want to try to overpower them and fight them all the time? No. But if that's how she wants to express her femininity, she can do that all day. But is it going to get her the results that she wants? I'm just all for you guys getting the results that you're ultimately seeking, which is to be able to get in a relationship, a hookup situation, whatever. And so you have to look at how are you displaying yourself up to this point? And more importantly, how have you believed you needed to display yourself to get women? And if those things haven't been working, could there potentially be a different way that you could learn to better present yourself in a way that the majority of women are going to want? Because I don't think there's anything negative about being a traditionally masculine guy. I think that there are positive ways to express it, just like there are toxic ways to express it. I think most men have been tricked into believing that all masculinity is toxic, or the opposite, which is like, well, masculinity could be, me moving my hand a certain way, or, talking with a lisp or doing whatever. And again, you can express your masculinity however you want to. If you're able to find a woman that gels with the kind of masculinity you're showing, more power to you. I'm just trying to say, but if you're trying to cast a wide net and better your life in general, then you need to figure out the versions of masculinity that are going to get you the best results that also are going to be natural to you. And also, in terms of things being natural to you, everything we do is habit. So whatever masculinity you have now that you are just standing foot in, this is the version of masculine that I'm showing, that is still all learned behavior. So if you're in a society where your version of masculinity is the highest form of masculinity that'll get you the best results, then keep doing that. Because there was a point in history where dudes were wearing high heels. I don't live in a society right now where dudes can get away with living high heels. So I'm not going to wear high heels to try to get women because it's not going to currently work. But you got to figure out what that is. And then if you're not getting the results that you want, you can't be like, well, women need to just, get used to my masculinity and follow for mine, because we wouldn't want women saying that to us, So you got to figure out what's the best version of that for you. And if it's not working, do something different. That's all I'm saying. All right. Continuing on. I did a YouTube short. Where I talked about how you need to wait for the woman to ask for the relationship. Because I fundamentally believe if you're dating a woman for 2 to 3 months and you're doing all the right things and she sees you as the guy she wants to get with, it is impossible for her to not come to you at some point and say, hey, so what are we? Hey, my friends are asking me questions about us and where we stand and blah, blah, blah. Like that's just their natural incentive to do that, right? So this guy said, what if they're waiting the entire time for you to start that conversation? And when they realize you're not going to, they'll just ghost you or fizzle out. So I understand asking this question if you're a guy that has never had this happen. And the reason it's probably not happened is because you jumped the gun. And what most guys will do is around the first or second month mark, if you're not used to this being a pattern, you start questioning like, okay, yeah, she's showing up for dates and she's answering all my texts and we're hooking up on a consistent basis. But you know what? She hasn't verbally expressed that she wants to be with me. So I just don't know where she stands. And now I think she might not like me. So I got to now go up to her and have a conversation about, hey, so I just want to know where you're at. Where do you stand with me? And it's not that it's a bad question. It's just you got to look at framing, okay? When you're coming to a woman and trying to ask her how she feels about you, that is basically saying to her, hey, you're wearing the pants and I'm trusting you to lead this thing because I don't know where you're at and I'm not confident enough in what we have going on to think that you actually like me more, all right? So it basically shows a lack of confidence. Now, what are one of the things that women constantly talk about wanting to see in a guy that they're interested in? Confidence. Now, for us guys, if we meet a woman and she's not the most confident, is that going to be a deterrent for us? For the most part, no, because our job is to be able to show her that we're consistent enough to where she can eventually trust us. And then once she trusts us, she can be more confident in who we are in the relationship. And then her confidence will inevitably be there, right? But guys don't need a woman to be over strongly confident in order to be attractive. But women definitely find confidence attractive. So when we go to them and try to ask them, hey, so what are we and blah, 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 this is why I've gotten plenty of letters from guys that are basically like, I dated her for 2 months. I asked her where we're at, and then she just suddenly stopped talking to me. And it's because you showed her that you lacked confidence, and that is a scary position for a woman to see her man in, at which point she was out, all right? But I stress this because the opposite is also true. When women are ready to be in a relationship, they cannot help but want to have a conversation about it. And if they don't see you bringing it up, they start to get in their head. Well, where's he at? Is he just using me for the sex, or does he actually like me in a relationship capacity? And now part of her starts to feel like she's starting to lose a bit of confidence because she's been doing all this great stuff with you. You seem to be a really great guy, but you're not trying to lock her down. So she doesn't want to be put in a position of the fool girl, like the one that gets used for 2 months for hookups and then the guy goes away and she's starting to really, really like you. And she doesn't know what's happening in your head and she wants to know. And because you haven't been verbalizely telling her where you're at with the situation, she doesn't know. And women by nature are very curious about the inner workings of your mind and where you're at. And she can't help but want to know. And I've been on Reddit and I've had women write me saying, hey, I've been seeing this guy for 2.5 months and I just don't know where he stands. And, we have great hookups together and we hang out all the time. He says he's not currently seeing anybody, but I don't know what that means. And my friends are starting to ask questions. I don't know what to do. And they're stressing about, I want to go up to this guy and have this conversation, but I don't know how he's going to react and blah, blah, blah. And that's where you want her to be. Because when she gets to that point, even if it's a thing where she's not sure how to bring it up, the feeling of her potentially being used by you is strong enough to where she doesn't want that to be happening. So she's going to come to you to address it. And I've seen more women on Reddit say, I went to the guy and finally said, hey, so, I just want to know where you're at, blah, 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 blah. And now we're in a relationship. Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. We're the guys, we're supposed to be in these things it's our job to try to seek out like the hookup situation, the physical situation. It's the woman's job to look up the relationship situation. So it's their role to come to you to ask about a relationship. And I say this because for guys that haven't been in this situation, say you dated a girl for like 2 months, right? Most guys at the 2nd month mark are jumping the gun and trying to ask her. I tell you guys, it takes 2 to 3 months, sometimes 4, but mostly 2 to 3 months for her to solidify her feelings. And I will tell you this, I found in my dating journey, like clockwork, at the 2.5 month to 3 month mark, women are usually coming, hey, so what are we? Hey, I just want to bring this to your attention. We've been dating for like 3 months. Like, what do you think about that? Or, because they can't help it. But you have to be able to wait them out. And what will also trip that up is, let's say in the month 1.5, you're like, hey, so I just want to know where you're at. Now you're going to delay her process because when you bring it up, it feels to her like you're trying to force her to make a decision about you today. And she's not there yet, which means now part of her subconsciously is going to be, I'm not going to let him force me into a relationship. So I'm going to make it go a little bit longer. And now it's going to have, you got to wait till 4 months. So if you've already made the mistake of trying to ask a woman where she's at, then just recognize at the moment that you ask that, tack on 3 extra months. But for you, the guys that have not asked that yet, just keep dating her. Just keep being consistent. Keep asking her out once a week. Keep showing her these bomb dates. Keep getting good hookups. If you do that enough times consistently, you will find that women across the board can't help it. To this guy's question, what if they're waiting for you? I'm telling you, I have no advice for that, because I'm telling you, if you are patient and are not the ones bringing up feelings or bringing up, we're going to do these future dates or these futures together, blah, 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 like clockwork, they're going to come to you and ask the question. That's just typically how it works. I don't know why it works like that. I don't care what the mechanics of why that is. I just know that when I've done that, like clockwork, they're coming to you. So learn to apply a bit of patience to your game and not be so in your head. As I tell you guys all the time, if you're asking for the date and she's saying yes, and she's showing up on time, you're good. Let that be the confidence to you that you're doing everything right, all right? All right. Moving on here. If you guys have any questions, like I said, you can ask them in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer them during the course of this show. Let's see, this question. So this person, I did a video where I talked about basically how romance can't be a surprise for men. You, in those first few months, need to be planning out every single thing, from the first dates to at what date you try to plan to kiss her, to various other things along the way that are going to help her to start feeling more attraction to you. So this guy commented and he said, I love this. One of my favorite memories is a first date that I planned with a girl. I knew I had to keep it simple, local. She lived there. Place was almost a village, so it had to be somewhere different and somewhere I could do something with. Scoped out a golf club up the road with a friend I'd met there. Had a really nice walk up, great menu, nice wine. What sold it to me was the patio doors onto the course. So I want to pause here, right? This guy is doing a perfect example of what I talk about. He's not only planning the date out, the details matter. Details matter to women. He's saying, look, I saw a golf club. I looked at the walk up. I looked at the menu. I looked at the blah, blah, blah. This is what women are looking for you to do. They're looking for a guy that's willing to actually go out of his way to look up all the miniature details about their date. Because here's the thing. I know men sometimes have this thing about, but shouldn't they be planning dates also and whatever? Women that are positive and come from good families and have a good head on their shoulders and are open to the idea of love, they're going to give so much to you in the relationship. And all they're asking to do for you in the beginning is to see that you're going to put forth a little effort, because trust me, she's going to put forth a lot of effort in this relationship. And she needs to know that you as her partner are willing to also do your side of things as well. So if you're a guy that's complaining about, I got to plan a date out, I got to plan the place and blah, 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 I got news for you. Women aren't going to like that, because they're already thinking about, if I fall for this guy, I'm trying to plan a life with kids. I'm trying to plan taking his last name, like big jumps and leaps. And you can't plan a date? Get the freak out of here. So he says, I planned it in my head there and then. We'd walk up, enjoy the views, wine and dine. We both smoked at the time, so we'd pop out for a quick cigar between drinks and courses. At the end, though, closer to dusk. So look, he's already planning out how the entire night's going to go. And when you plan out like that, that's what makes a woman start to feel that she can trust you and feel safe and secure, because it's not about you're planning out each individual thing. You're planning out in the way that's going to make her feel desired and make her have a good time. And also, because you're planning it, you're understanding the ins and outs of the safety zones that need to be there and stuff like that. So you're essentially showing you can take care of her. And that's what most women are looking for, guys that can show they're willing to take care of it. So then, okay, closer to dusk, we'd walk out the patio doors, but I'd invite her to walk with me onto the course. She'd look to me and say something like, are we allowed to do this? And I'd say, who's going to tell us not to? Come to think of it, I barely remember the date, maybe because that's exactly what happened, but I vividly remember the night. Back to town for drinks, shown off to her acquaintances. Night took care of itself, and it was awesome. I never heard advice like this before. I thought my meticulous planning of first dates was my own little secret, but of course it's how we should do it. Yeah. And as a guy, you should be taking pride in being able to work on your planning skills and really, making the extra effort to make a first date special. And this, by the way, doesn't have to be about spending a lot of money. I've done picnic dates. I've done walk in the park dates. Like, you can do things that are still special and still make it memorable for her. But it's more so about the fact that you're even planning the thing in the first place that women are looking for, because so many guys complain about, I got to plan stuff. That's the first way that she can gauge if you're going to be a leader in this relationship or not. And you're already whining about having to take on that role. Is it any wonder then that she might not want a second date? So take this guy's word of heed. Take what I say. Like, be willing to be that guy that plans those first few dates. I'm telling you, you're going to stand out way above most of the other guys up to this point that have been doing things like asking her, so what do you want to do on the date? What should we do? Those guys don't really get a lot of second or third dates because women don't want to plan dates. They want to look to their man to do it. So be that guy. Continuing on here, let's see. We got a few more questions that I have here. If you want to ask a question in the chat, you're welcome to do so, but we'll continue on. This person said, this is a comment under my video. She never initiates texting. Is she pulling away? He says, when I'm with my girlfriend in person, we communicate very well and have great times. She doesn't text me good morning and good night like she used to. And it seems like I have to initiate the texting and phone calling a lot lately. I don't know if she's just getting bored or lack of interest or something else. Well, I mean, we could speculate and say it could possibly be that, but you got to look at like how she's treating you in person. If in person you're communicating, you're still regularly hooking up, she's still giving you the googly eyes, then go by that. You know, I've said it on this program before, I've said during this podcast before, that ultimately, as you get more into a relationship, the texting is going to start to wane, possibly because you're seeing each other a lot more. And so think about this. When you first start dating a woman, you're seeing her, if you're doing it right, once, maybe twice a week tops, right? You're not seeing each other a whole lot. So in between dates, if she happens to initiate text or you guys text back and forth, which I don't recommend, but if you are, it's understandable why that would happen because you're not seeing each other all the time. At the point that you're in a relationship and she's your girlfriend, you're probably seeing her 3 to 4 times a week. That's already a lot of communication. And you as an introvert to know that even if you love somebody a lot and you enjoy their company, you still need your alone time. You still need time to get back to yourself. You need time to work on projects. You need time to connect with friends and family outside of her that maybe they haven't seen you in a while. And so as that stuff starts to happen, texting is going to naturally wane off because it's going to mostly be reserved for asking for dates or for clarification on things or sending the occasional meme or emoji, you know? But as long as she's still doing things outside of the phone realm that indicate that she still cares about you, then I wouldn't take that as a high read. Now, if she's not texting you as much and also sex is starting to dwindle and also she's making excuses to not see you as much, that's when I'd worry. But this phone stuff, this is why I said at the beginning, texting kills attraction, and texting is also not a good read or an indication of where she's feeling. And I've said in the past before, because I know someone's going to call me out, I've said that you can use texting as a barometer to see where she's at with her feelings as they're building. As they're building. In a relationship, though, it's really more about, is the in-person tell still showing that she has high interest? Because that's going to be a better barometer overall than this texting stuff. Texting in a relationship is bound to get mundane and boring and a lot less. And you know what? Good. Let it happen. The amount of texting that should happen in a relationship should be far less than the amount of times you're seeing each other, spending time with each other, and hooking up. Good water. All right. Let's see. Oh, okay. So let's see what this one is. Did anyone myself? Somebody doesn't know. I don't know if I answered this one earlier or not. Oh, no. Okay. So, random question the guy asked. He said, I've been dating a woman for about 2 months. At first, we started out both wanting something casual. I don't know how that conversation comes up. And I say that because, you know, when you first start dating somebody, it should just be casual. Like you're not going from we had a first date to now we're in a relationship. So the goal is you get to the 3rd month, and by the 3rd month, she solidified her feelings. Everything before month 3 should be casual, and you should be presenting it as casual because you're waiting for her to bring up that she wants it to be something more. Even if you're all in your feelings, you have a very, very high interest. You're like, I can see this girl as a potential one. Give yourself 3 months. She's doing her due diligence, and more guys need to do a better job of spending that 3 months also doing their due diligence. So take that time, but it should be casual. So there shouldn't be discussions of, hey, so do you see this as a casual thing or as a relationship thing? That should not be a conversation you ever bring up ever. It is pointless because if she, in that 3 months of dating you, starts to build feelings, then she'll be the one to let you know it needs to go from casual to super serious. But in the meantime, in those first 3 months, it's always casual. But continuing on, he says, but I've been doing a lot of work on myself and self-discovery, and have found that at some point, I do want a partnership. There's nothing wrong with that. But there is a problem with this. I shared this with her, making it clear this is in general and not a conversation about us becoming exclusive, but just to check in and see where she's at. Now, before I finish this, where do you think she's at? They've been dating for 2 months. We haven't gotten to month 3 yet. So on the scale of 50% interest to 90% interest, where do you think she's at on that scale? At 2 months, I'd say to venture, if he's been doing everything right, she should be close to like 70, 75. All right. Let's see how this goes. So because he asked the question, he asked, I want to check in to see where you're at with your feelings right now in month 2. Wait for it. She said she doesn't know what she wants for the future. Yeah. And she doesn't know that because in her dating process, she's still trying to figure out where she feels and what she feels this is going to be. And she's still trying to analyze him. And she needs at least another month before she comes to the conclusion, it's been 3 months and this guy's been consistent and I really feel for him and I like him. And now I'm going to come to him and ask for the relationship. But what did he do? He interrupted that process. He asked at month 2, which means now we got to tackle another 2 to 3 months before she's going to feel comfortable that he's not trying to force a relationship. Anyway, so she said she doesn't know what she wants for the future. I said, that's okay, and asked if we could keep it an open conversation. She said, yes. We currently see each other once a week. It's been 2 weeks. Do you all think I should bring it up again or give her some more time? My feeling is if she knows she doesn't want a partnership at any point, then I'd rather end it now and save myself the pain down the line. There it is. But I think I'm down to give her some more time if she genuinely doesn't know. So this is where the pain point happens because guys in their heads start to think, well, I got to have the conversation again because what I'm really fearing internally is that if I'm dating her for 2 or 3 or 4 months and then we get to the end of that 4 months and she says, actually, I don't want a relationship, I'm going to be devastated. Well, for one, that's the risk you take in dating in general is any person, anytime, even if he got into a relationship with her at any time, she could say, I'm not feeling it. And then that's the end of it. That can happen at any time. All right. So the idea that you're gonna preemptively be able to lessen the hurt by trying to get her to tell you now how she feels, it's an exercise in futility and it's not worth doing because again, it's kind of like the thing of like you're trying to not have a thing happen, but by asking her about a thing, you're making that thing happen. So if he just left this alone, 2 months, things are going great. He just kind of left it at that. By the 3rd month, I can guarantee she'd be like, hey, it's been 3 months. And I know I said I wanted something casual, but I'm having a good time with you. And I want to see where your head's at which point you's the guy like, oh, wow. Well, that's interesting that you bring that up. Let's talk about what that looks like. And I talk about this extensively in my Top Secret Dating Blueprint program, which you can get at the website. But the point is that, so because he didn't do that, now he's in his head thinking, okay, well, she didn't say she wanted a partnership. That must mean she's going to never want a partnership because as guys, we think, we're very logical and for us, words mean words. So if she said, hey, I don't know what I want for the future, we're reading that as that she doesn't know. So I could be stuck in purgatory. She may never decide that she wants a relationship. Oh my God. But what she said was accurate in the moment. She doesn't know because she's still trying to fill you out. Now, there could be a point in the future where she figures that out. Or there could be a point in the future where she decides, I don't want to be with this guy anymore. Either of those things can happen. But the fact that you're in the dating phase, you shouldn't be taking this girl so seriously. Like the first 3 months are meant to be casual, and that gives you time to vet her as well as to date and vet a bunch of other women because you're not tied down to commitment. And that's what you want. You always want to be given the feeling tone that at any given time, if this doesn't work out, cool, you'll find somebody else. And during the dating phase in particular, the idea is that you're dating her, but hey, there could potentially be other offers out there. And you're thinking, but what if she thinks that I'm seeing other women? So what? Because I know to a guy it doesn't make sense because we're thinking if I knew a girl was dating other guys, I feel some kind of way about it. In girl world, it doesn't work like that. Because here's the thing that guys don't get. In girl world, this is the reason why married guys and guys that already have kids get hit on so heavily is because women want evidence that other women like you because it gives them the idea that you know how to handle women. So it sounds dumb to us, but that's because we're not looking for a woman that can handle another guy. Like that doesn't make sense to us, but to them, it totally does. So if she gets the feeling or impression that you possibly have other women you're talking to her, it's just A, good because you know how to handle other women, and B, it now puts her in her head in competition for your attention and love, which makes her want to work harder, which makes her want to give you more of her attention, which makes her want to come to you and ask, hey, so I know it's been 2 or 3 months, but I want to see where you're at because I'm thinking about a partnership. They can get away with that better than we can. That's just the bottom line. So what I say to you guys is it sucks that you already brought this up. I'd say scale it back, be more patient. If she's still trying to figure out this future thing, great. Have a couple of days where she hits you up and says, hey, I want to hang out. And you just say, oh, you know what? I have other plans, but maybe later this week. Do that like 1 or 2 times and see if she doesn't start thinking, what are his other plans? Does this mean that he's seeing other people? Does this mean that is he trying to go after somebody else or not? I don't know what's going on. And again, you might see that as game playing. I see that as realistically, you should be keeping your options open, and realistically, you should be having other people that you can see. So it's not you playing games, it's you playing the field and putting yourself out there to see who's the best pick and basically putting her in a competition. And at that point, she can decide if she wants to continue on with the competition and try to show you why she deserves to be the partner that you choose versus the other way around. Because you putting yourself as, I hope that you choose me, that puts you in the subservient position, and it puts you in a position that, unfortunately, most women are going to look at and be like, oh, he's putting me in the leadership position. I don't like this. I'm out. So just stop talking about it, basically. Let's see. Question. This guy's a question about a work relationship gone bad. And he says, I started dating someone at my work. We are a small office of 10. I'm the vice president, and she is a recent hire. Everything was going great, and then suddenly she broke up with me. No reasoning or nothing. I have told her, let's be friends at work still, but she refuses to even speak to me. Ouch. We have a work event this weekend, and I heard she is bringing her new guy. I am not the jealous type, but this is hitting me hard. I'm looking for advice. I would never dare threaten her job. That is completely out of the question. Well, here's my thing. Even though you're not threatening her job, this is one of those things where if you get too butthurt about it, then you might start unintentionally doing things that make her feel uncomfortable, and now your job is threatened. So this is the risk that you take when you date somebody at your job. And you know what? I'm not even against people dating at work because according to stats, like something like 37% of people get married to somebody that they met on the job. So if this is bound to happen, totally fine. But you also got to go in as a guy with the understanding that if this doesn't work out, you got to have the emotional intelligence to know, A, that people can ultimately choose whoever they want. And as much as you might be hurt by it, she can be with whoever she wants to be. And that, two, you can't let that affect your work environment. So you try to talk to her at work and she doesn't want to talk to you. You know what? Totally fine. You ain't got to talk to her. You're the vice president. You have other subordinates and people that can talk to her. If you guys have meetings together and you're trying to ask her a question and she doesn't want to talk, that's a work issue, not a relationship issue. You could say to her, hey, I know we're not dating like that anymore, but at the very least at these meetings, we got to still be professional. If I ask you a question that's legitimately about work stuff, I need your correspondence because it helps the company as a whole, you know? But ultimately, you can't be butthurt by that. So in terms of being around her at this work picnic, she has every right to bring this other guy to this picnic. If it's going to bug you, you can decide to stay away. If you're the vice president and it's going to be hard for you to do that, then go there and you ain't got to talk to her. If she comes up to you and it's like, oh, this is my guy, so-and-so and so-and-so, you got to act like dating her at the office never happened. Oh, hey, God, nice to meet you, blah, 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 blah. Glad to see you and so-and-so are together. This is now, blah, blah. And then go on and talk to other women, or maybe not. If they work with you, find somebody else or whatever. But yeah, you can't. This is a situation where as a guy, you got to know going in, there's always a risk that the person that you're dating at your job could decide not to anymore. And at that point, you got to still be professional. You still got to show up to the job, acting like nothing happened. And hey, if you feel hurt by this person, I feel sorry for you about that, but you can't let that affect how you treat her at the job, and you can't let yourself be showing how hurt you are by it while you're on the clock. Deal with that stuff outside of the job. If you got to go to therapy or talk to other friends about it, do that. But just ultimately, we don't want you to lose your job about this. So you can't make it seem as though dating her was a big deal in the first place. And it sucks. You got to play that role. That really can't feel like game playing to a guy. Like, I got to hide my emotions and act like, yeah, you're in a professional environment. You got to suck it up and do that. Sorry to say. All right, let's see here. We got, let's see. Here's a couple more questions here. Again, guys, this is interactive. If you guys have any questions you want to ask me in the chat that are dating questions that you're going through, you're welcome to ask them as well. I'll be happy to answer them during the course of this live. Continuing on, this person said, okay. He wants to know how to maintain a positive attitude when dating. So he says he's 35 and he's Australian, but with South Asian background, decent physique, 5'6" tall. So he's a bit of a shorter guy. That happens. And I talked recently on a last week's show about how I have friends that are 5'5", 5'6", that married women that are like 5'11", 6 foot. And so you can't let your height hold you back. It might present a bit of a challenge, but there's all kinds of dating challenges. Hey, women that are 6'1" have a problem dating. Black guy on the dating apps, low man on the totem pole. got a problem dating, but you can still overcome those things if you're willing to put in the work and find the women out there that are going to be attracted to you in spite of whatever hiccup you think you have. Anyway, recently single after ending a 15-year relationship, back in the dating game. And so far he's met 4 women for a first date. All 4 of them didn't want to continue to a second date. Conversation was good with all of the dates, and I felt a connection to 2 of the 4 girls. So understand, just recognize in general, guys, when you're going out on dates with women, that how you feel ultimately doesn't matter. Because most guys go into most situations like, hey, if this girl smiles at me and has a decent conversation, yeah, we could work out. But you really got to put more importance on how she's feeling. Does she feel a connection? And early in the dating game, the only way you know that is if you ask her for a second date and she says yes or no. That's really the only way you can find out early on, because you don't want to be the guy that's like, so it's been 2 days, so how do you feel? That's going to get you canned by more women than you can possibly imagine. I've talked about that extensively. Anyway, so it says, anyway, I have 2 more beautiful women who are keen to meet up for a first date and a couple more in the pipeline too. He says, I meet them all via dating apps, but I feel depressed from these initial 4 rejections. How do you adopt this abundant mindset without feeling sad about getting rejected? I'm a decent looking guy with a good job and social skills. It felt like a real kick in the nuts, especially as the girls were super keen chatting until they met me. And that could be honestly because of the height thing. I don't know if on your dating app, you're expressing how tall you are, but because I know that could be a deterrent for some women initially if they don't know you. So that might be a thing where they're seeing you in person. It's like, he didn't tell me he was this tall versus like having it on the app. But I don't know your situation like that. So I don't know what you're doing. But he says, should I just embrace the rejection, even if it means getting rejected 10 to 20 times before finding a girl that likes me? I want to develop my confidence to approach girls in real life too, not just dating apps. So again, here's the reality is that as a shorter guy, there is a bit of a stigma against you that it's unfair because you as your height is not telling of who you are as an actual person, but women might not give you the grace, but like I said, we all have various dating hiccups. There are 6 feet guys that I coach that are still not confident about their ability to get women, So, but I would say this is that unfortunately for men, it typically can take a little bit longer and a few more tries to get into a relationship because women are looking for various metrics and things, and then it's based on feelings. We base a lot of our stuff on initial facts. She's got the boobs I like. She's got the curves I like. She talks to me well. Therefore, boom, it's a thing. And women are looking for other things that at times might not gel. But more to the point, I said because for men, typically, and I know you might not want to hear this because it's been said before, dating is a numbers game. It's very cliche to say that, but it's a numbers game. You can play the numbers game smart, but it's in a sense that you have to know realistically how many numbers it's going to take to actually get into a relationship. And the problem I think most guys have is they try for like 1 or 2 girls and say, oh, these 2 girls rejected me. That's it. I'm going my own way. Screw these women, blah, 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 blah. And I have found that if you put the realistic number farther out there, then it becomes easier when you're not getting the relationships you want early on to power through it. So for example, if I want a girlfriend, right? I'm on dating apps. I could say to myself, okay, in order to get a girlfriend, realistically on a dating app, I probably need to get at least 50 dates. Now, some of you guys heard that and were like, 50 dates? Oh my God, it ain't got to be that high. You could say I need 20 dates. But the point is, you're going to need a certain set of actual dates, and you're going to need a certain number of those dates to fail in order for you to eventually start seeing some successes, right? So there was a 6-month period one time where I was going on dating apps and I was going on date after date after date for like 6 months. I probably went out with like 10 different women, and some of them I got to a second and third date. Some of them I got to a 4th date, but none of them I got into a relationship with. And then after that 6 months, I went with somebody else on a date and boom, I was in a relationship for a bit. And then it just kind of continued on. So you got to really look realistically at after 2 or 3 dates, I got news for you. Going out with 2 or 3 people is probably not going to get you into a relationship, but going out with 15 to 20 people might. And so how you hold yourself up is basically say, okay, the end result is I end up with a really great girl in a relationship. And it maybe I get it on date 1 or date 15, but I got to get to date 15. That way, for one, it'll keep you objective because now you're not going to be dating one woman at a time, hoping it works out. You're going to be dating 3 or 4 women at a time, going on a date on Monday, then on Wednesday, then on Friday, and you're going to spread yourself out so that way you're not obsessively looking over one woman as having to be the end all be all. The second thing that does is that now puts these other women in competition. And women can feel when a guy has other women that are interested, which makes them by default of that want to put in more effort and look at you as, well, if other girls like him, then I should probably like him too. And therefore I'm going to put myself in the running for this and not be so quick to back away. And so as you put yourself out there more like that, you're going to find that you're going to be going on 2 or 3 different dates a week with different women. And say you might meet with Sally on Monday and you might not see her again until next Thursday. Well, in between that time, you're seeing Lily Bell and you're seeing whoever, you know? And so that'll keep you objective. It'll keep you in a competitive space. And then also, by doing that, let's say you're dating 3 women and then 1 falls off. Well, you have 2 more to look forward to still, and then you're also trying to plan for another one. So it keeps you in this place of basically not being so needy for any particular woman's attention. Women can also feel neediness. So if you're going on a date one at a time with a person and you haven't built up the capacity to be able to still give the appearance of dating multiples, even if you're only dating one, then you're going to be in that space of needing this one to work out. And so desperate for it to be a good date. And it's going to put you out of your head and result in you not getting the results you want. Verse is if you are able to really put the number out there, like I need 20 dates, you might find by the 5th or 6th person you're dating that, oh, she seems like she's going for like the distance. And she might get to like date 8, i.e. 2 months, and then decide, I don't want to do this. Okay, great. At no time during these 3 months are you getting rid of women or trying to lock yourself down with one in particular, you know? And as that starts to happen, you'll find that you'll be able to date women for longer. And then you'll start to really get a better idea of who you actually want to end up with if they only would want to do that. But you're also not going to be pressuring the people that you do like more to have to make this a thing, you know? And that's how you keep your head about you. At least that's what's worked for me, you know? So hopefully that helps you out. Let's see. Another guy here. We got a couple more questions left here, and then we'll be out and about. This person said, did I wait too long? I met a girl at a bar a few weeks ago. We talked briefly and had a lot in common. I was at the bar celebrating a friend. He doesn't say what for. I'm assuming birthday, and had to walk away briefly, but she left before we exchanged contact info. About a week later, I found her Instagram and added her. It's been about 2 weeks and I haven't reached out yet. I've been really busy with work and I can't really set up a date in the near future because my schedule is a bit unpredictable at the moment. I plan to reach out when I completed my current project at the end of the month. My justification was that I didn't really want to waste her time because I couldn't spend any time with her. Today, I realized she unfollowed me and removed me as a follower. Is it too late to reach out, or should I still reach out when my schedule frees up? So this is the tricky part about dating, is that, especially for guys, is that we feel as though if we get a woman's number and then try to and contact her, but can't do a date until like later in the future, that it's going to be a waste of her time. And I talked on the show about how you don't want to be future planning stuff with a woman, but you don't want to be future planning dates with women that you've already gone out with. But you might be a guy that has a busy life, and we don't know what her life looks like. She could also be busy. But I want to go back to when you met her at the bar. And this is the mistake a lot of guys make, is thinking, oh, well, I didn't get her information. I'll just get it later. So when you're engaging with her at the bar and she's in front of your face and talking to you, that is the perfect time always to get a woman's number. I don't care if you only had 10 seconds of conversation, because I have a friend of mine that is now married to a woman who he met walking by Staples Center, and he just said, hey, real quick, I don't want to interrupt your day, but I just think you're such a gorgeous, beautiful spirit, and I'd love to get your number. 10, 15 seconds, got the number, went about his day. But he got the number from her. He got permission from her to be able to get the number and contact. And that is very acceptable. What feels more creepy is you got home and you decided to look her up, and you did a whole Google, Yahoo search to eventually find her name and get her Instagram, and you send her a message saying, hey, so-and-so. Oh, sorry, you didn't even send a messenger. You decided to just follow her without her knowing about it. So all those steps feel creepy and feel desperate, and it makes a woman not feel so keen on wanting to actually go out with you, because now, even though she had a positive interaction in person, you then made the assumption, well, if we had a positive interaction in person, of course you'll have no problem with just hear about the blue to say, hey, girly, remember me? And that doesn't go off as well. So anytime guys watching this, you meet a woman in person and you think there's any kind of inkling that you want to talk to her, get the information then, because you doing it later is going to be a lot creepier. And then to the point, even if you're doing that, he followed her and then didn't reach out. So now it just feels like to her, you just followed me to spy on my page. You just followed me to look at my pictures and ogle at my videos. Like this feels also more creepy, you know? So the play, if he was going to go with this play, which I don't recommend, but if he was going to go with this play, the play should have been not even a follow. The play should have been reach out by messaging her saying, hey, I meant to get your info the other night. Hope it's cool that I'm hitting you up. Would love to take you out sometime. Let me know if you're free in the next week or so to meet up. And if he was busy, he could say, hey, I know this is weird, but I just wanted to, I mentioned at the bar, we had a good rapport and I want to take you out sometime. My calendar is swamped this month, but I got some free time next month in the middle of the month. Can I hit you up then? Boom. Now you're saying respectfully, I want to take you out. Now's not a good time, but I do want to do it at some point. So when my schedule becomes free, can I hit you up then? Now, what most guys fear is that, but that's a month and a half away. She's going to lose interest and some other guy's going to come in and whatever. That's the risk you take. But I have found that women that have an inkling of an interest will wait that long. They'll wait a month, 2 months, 5 months, a year, if they think that something could possibly be there. And that's also the risk you take. But as a guy, you got to start getting used to taking risk when you're asking women out, because the reality is that you approaching is a risk. You asking for a number is a risk. You asking for a date is a risk. You going up for the kiss is a risk. Risk, risk, risk. But women want to see that you're a confident guy that is willing to take those risks. Those are the guys that are more apt to succeed, the ones that are actually saying, you know what, I could possibly get a rejection right now, and I'm still going to do it. And that is the gumption that women are looking for in their men. So who cares if I got to wait a month and a half? Be willing to say, hey, I got to wait a month and a half to ask you out, but when that time comes, I'll reach back out. And risk her saying, I don't want to do that. Or risk in a month and a half's time, her not being interested, but you just doing the risk is still a positive move for you to do, because as opposed to, I'm going to be stalker guy, which doesn't look good or feel comfortable to women at all, All right, so I got one more question here before we get out of here. Again, guys, if you have any questions you want to ask me, now's the time to do it, because I'm going to answer this one and then probably get some food. I don't know. I'm hungry. Let's see. So this guy, he is struggling with a thing that probably a lot of you guys are facing, which is when you're dating somebody, liking them too much. So his question says, I struggle with wanting it too much. My pattern seems to be this. I'm plenty capable of attracting a woman in the early stages, but once I start liking the person, I get anxious and usually find a way to mess it up. Well, the reason that happens is because the feeling of loss is very, very powerful. So at the point that we don't give a crap about the person, don't really care, it's very easy to be our fun, jovial, lively selves because there's no risk. Like, I don't care if she says blah, blah, blah. But at the point that feelings come in, our brain starts going into like, I got to keep this person around mode. Like, oh my God, like I got to keep them. I got to do things to make sure that I don't upset them and I can't mess it up. And we walk into the story of messing it up by not trying to mess it up. So that's why that happens. He says, I'm not very good at hiding the fact that I really want to take things further. Examples are going from we're enjoying the time together to kissing or other physical intimacy, or going from dating casually to making it a real relationship. When I actively pretend not to care as much as I actually do, it feels like playing games, and it usually doesn't work anyway. I end up saying or doing something that shows how much I like the person. So, and I've talked about this before, to us guys, if we're not being 100% honest or telling all of our feelings, it can feel as though we're playing games. And so that I will counter this and say this. I need you to get in your head that you don't actually know how you feel about this person until month 3. Women are taking 2 to 3 months to solidify their feelings, do their due diligence. You're thinking by the second or third date that you already figured out how you feel and that you emphatically want this person. And what I want to suggest to you is that that is your lustful side saying, I want to jump their bones. That's tricking you into thinking that you have full-fledged feelings, and that maybe it's not playing games if you're holding off, but instead it's saying to yourself, even though I'm feeling these strong things, it's a lustful feeling, but I need to make sure that I can trust myself to have actual, authentic, loving feelings for her. And I need to give myself time to see if that's actually there. So you not blabbing your feelings isn't playing games, because when you're doing that, you're actually you're actually displaying to her lust and not displaying to her a full like. All right. So get in your head that by delaying, you're actually doing the loving thing of letting yourself really fully realize where your feelings are versus assuming that you already have them. Anyway, he says, over and over, this has happened where things look promising and there's mutual attraction. And then I scare the person away with over eagerness. I don't smother, I don't beg or profess my love to someone I barely know. But when I start liking someone, I must give off a vibe and the attraction dies. Well, even though you say you're not smothering or begging, when you're being over eager, when you're quick to try to tell them how you feel or whatever, then that to a woman is feeling like smothering, because it still puts forth the thing of, oh my God, this guy's already chosen me. I now feel forced to choose him as my person. And if she's not there yet, then you're going to keep chasing these women away. This is why I stress to you that it might not be that your over eagerness is because you love them so much. It's over eager because your body's anticipating, oh my God, I like this girl. This girl likes me. We can totally hook up. It's going to be awesome, because that's part of it. And even when you're hooking up with a woman, you shouldn't be acting like you're over eager to do that. Like, you need to be at a point, get to a point where if you hook up with the person, hey, it's part of the dating process. Fantastic. But if on this second or third date that doesn't happen, hey, totally cool. I'm just here to get to know her in whatever capacity that means and whatever is comfortable for her. If it so happens we get to the hookup phase at some point, because inevitably, before you get to the relationship, that will happen. But some women, it'll be the first date. Some women, it'll be the fifth or sixth date. But as long as you remain in the thing of like, I want to do some stuff, but I'll give it some time, then that'll display to a woman that you're not as eager as she anticipated you would be. And that can make her actually want to do stuff like that a lot faster and fall for you a lot faster. But you being the one that's over eager and bringing up what are we and feelings and not being able to hide yourself, that just shows, honestly, a lack of self-control. And women do not like men that cannot control themselves, because if you can't control yourself in the dating phase, who's to say that you not being able to control yourself later could not result in her facing some kind of harm, you know? He says, I can try dating women I find less interesting, exciting, attractive, but that's not what I want and wouldn't lead to a happy relationship. You don't need to do that. You just need to recognize that. Here's how I look at it, right? In the beginning of dating, we are quick to say, oh, this one, I for sure would want to be in a relationship. This one, just casual. But this one, just a situationship. And we're putting the women that we want relationships with on a pedestal. And that's a problem, because whether it's pedestal girl or situationship girl or whatever, we don't actually know them enough to really have a gauge of where we put them. So all women should start out like this. On a plane. Yeah, you got a 9 hot 10 model that's over here, and you got like a 4 or 5 over here that is just kind of a nice bubbly girl. I got news for you. You don't know either of these chicks. And you don't know if this woman over here, that's the model chick, has a bad attitude, or this one over here gets rowdy on her period days. You have no idea. So you can't sit there and say after 2 dates, you have a full picture of these women. You don't. So this is why you go into dating things where it's like, you have no feeling. You have a good first date with this model chick and this 4 or 5 over here. Great. You have no feeling. All you're doing is analyzing at this level. Oh, we hooked up. That's great. You're right here, because good hookups don't mean she's a good person. And it doesn't mean that she's going to have a good attitude all the time. You got to look at all stuff as even keel and be objective during this whole time, because you might think you have the overly hots for this girl over here, but in a month's time, you can find out she did some stuff in a previous relationship that you're like, oh, I'm already wrapped up in this. I'm already trying to claim her as the girlfriend, but she did some shady crap. I'm glad I figured out in month 1 versus trying to lock her down right away. So give yourself that time and you will find this will not happen as much. I've tried really hard to just be cool, remember that there are other fish, etc., but I still can't find a groove. This also leads me to be really careful about showing my interest, which creates another problem. How do you find the balance between wanting someone and being relaxed enough that it doesn't push them away? Here's how I've gone about it. And again, your results may vary, but I say try this. Again, for one, every girl that I go on a first or second date with at this level, there's no judgment between how much I want them or not. Because for me, at least for myself, I've very much turned dating into analytics. So there's less feeling in terms of, I'm not looking at this from the perspective like, oh, this person makes me feel a certain way, more so as, does this person make a potentially good long-term partner? So I'm going in with that mindset, and I'm going as an analyzer. Now, I will say this does make the early phase of dating less romantic. And I've talked about this on the show before. Your job during those first 3 months is not to to want to be taking in romance. Your job is to be giving that out, but also to be analyzing the situation for what it really is. When you have a level head about things, you can go into this and say, yes, I'm doing things because I care for her, but also I'm going into this with an even head and recognizing that I need to see from her that what I'm going to be getting out of her long-term is what I actually want. So, if you have a hookup on the third date, most guys, they get the hookup. Oh my God, this is so great. I look at it as like, okay, that's another metric. Did she do the stuff I liked in bed? Did we have to fight over some things? Okay, that's fantastic. I will now add that to the list of things that I'm analyzing that I like. Now let's go on some more dates and see what happens when we get into a fight, or how she's going to treat waiters, or how she's going to talk about her friends and family. Because I need to know that for sure. Like, I don't let any particular positive thing that she's doing automatically make me think we now are in a relationship. And too many guys are like, well, we had a good conversation and great texting rapport, and she likes the same things I like, and I really connected with her. You connected on trivial surface stuff. That's great. But you need to do a deeper dive to really see what's on that second, third, and fourth layer before deciding that this person is the person that you want. And if you're not able to do that, you're going to always be that guy that goes on 2 or 3 good dates and is overly obsessed and is over texting, and then you're losing the girl and then thinking she played games, and really you just didn't know how to pace out dating. And that's why I have programs at my website designed to help you figure out what the pacing of dating should be, how you should be messaging women, because all these things are important for you to do so you'll be more even keel when you're doing dating, and it'll put you in a place where you're looking at it analytically and objectively versus going in with all these feelings. Let the women be the one to have the feelings, and your feelings will come at the point that you guys get into a relationship. But until then, I err on the side of making things more analytical and really looking at things from an objective perspective to be able to get out of the rut of, but I feel all these things. Because again, early on, it's more so lust than loving feelings. And so if you take the lust part out of it, is she still a good partner? If you guys aren't having any kind of hookup whatsoever, are you still able to talk to her, relate to her, see the good in her? Is she doing things for you? Is she talking about how much she loves her family? These are all the other things that you need to have 2 to 3 months to figure out before you just jump in and say, yep, I'm so gung-ho. If you think you found the most unicorns of people, that person still needs the vetting process too. So that's what I say in terms of being able to hold it all together and be more balanced in terms of being able to get into a relationship. So hopefully, God, that helps you out. So that's all I got for today, guys. Thank you all who watched this broadcast. I appreciate each and every one of you. Be sure that we do this show every Tuesday at 3 or 3:30. So check back next week for another exciting episode of the Introvert Dating Success Show. I'm Harry Wilmington. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys on the next one. I'm out. Peace.
Call this beat Will Smith, cause it's slap.